We just got a look at Bitcraft's first dungeon in this monthly update, alongside this footage, and there's a lot to unpack. In this video, I've got some new info to share about dungeons, how they work, and their rewards. We'll also discuss some of the various changes that were added in the pre-patch, some good and some pretty bad. Keep in mind, much of this is subject to change, so don't shoot the messenger. Dungeons take place in these new ancient catacombs placed all around the world. They'll be manually placed by the devs, so make sure you PayPal them if you want one right next to your settlement. These dungeons are designed for groups of 4 to 8 players, but they are not instances and are actually public spaces, similar to mines. This means that any amount of people will be able to join. Ones implemented on Thursday are for gear levels around Tier 3 to Tier 4, but in the future they're planning on adding one for Tier 1, Tier 2, and then later on expand upwards. Now many of us still playing daily are obviously well past this, but they intend to flesh out all the tiers content with more to do than just craft. Thankfully there's still rewards and other reasons to go in, which I'll get into soon. In the promo video, we can see that in the dungeon, you'll fight through larger packs of enemies than we're used to, up to a penultimate boss fight at the end. Work together to take down the boss, which in this case is a malfunctioning sentinel. Inside, there are also new resource nodes that let you use your mining, smithing, and masonry professions to gather resources and dungeon-exclusive crafting materials. The promo video also shows new drops and cosmetics as rewards. You might be wondering how these rewards are given out if any amount of people can join. And I do have an answer for this. It works very similar to Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy XIV, in that you'll need to reach certain contribution thresholds to get to a certain tier of loot. Say, for example, bronze, silver, and gold. This means that if you zerg the boss, it will be a lot easier, but not many, if anyone at all, will get top loot. Right now, contribution is measured in damage, but will be updated in the future to measure other things, such as tanking, debuffs, and other abilities. Just to clarify, everyone gets their own loot pool, and the boss does not have one shared drop table. Now get your pickaxes out as we do some mining to see what else is from the dungeons. Skip to this time if you don't want to be spoiled. Some of you might have seen this already, but the Sentinel Insignia is a new turn-in item for Rampart, unlocked at level 30 Slayer, giving 2,500 hex coin for a turn-in and a good chunk of experience. The Sentinel also drops a heart, an eye, and a scroll, each increasing your health, strength, and stamina when consumed. The scroll is consumed automatically and can't be traded, but the heart and eye can be picked up and sold to other players. The Sentinel's short sword, claymore, and spear are all potential drops at either rare or epic quality. These have normal T3 rare stats, but notably you can't actually get in T3 epic normally, and they have unique models. Additionally, the claymore has a longer cooldown and slower swing speed than the normal claymores, but much more damage, making it good for bursting down a single enemy. Finally, he drops his headpiece that acts like a tier 3 epic plate helmet, which you also get to show off. The resource node and some chests that you can find all reward some hex coin and ancient metal fragments, which are used to craft the new chainmail armor set. This set has a much smaller health bonus and no stamina, instead giving a bigger strength and cooldown reduction. It'll take 50 fragments to make a full set. For context, each coffer gives about 10 to 15 fragments. The dungeon itself is actually a smaller part of the update. Alongside them, we're also getting an expansion to the combat system. Multi-target attacks are in, which will help us with enemies in the dungeon or large packs of jackals and skitches. The claymore can now hit up to 3 enemies at once, though enemies can do the same now to you too. Self-target abilities such as the mace's strength can be used out of combat or with no target, letting you use them preemptively or when out of range. Taunting has been improved, and the spear and shield has new abilities to compensate for the new need for tanking. Strength calculations have been shifted and around and fixed, meaning daggers are no longer complete trash, and I actually suspect they're one of the highest DPS, but they will also make you take more damage. And finally, actions have been improved in general to include action queuing and feel more responsive, which as a high ping player makes me very bloody happy. Unfortunately, these changes did come with some drawbacks. Strength has been put back on metal armor instead of baked right into the weapon and our characters, meaning we won't do as much damage without the right gear. It's particularly frustrating because in the pre-patch they launched, either you needed to carry a combat set with you and deal with swapping when gathering, or attempt to run away in leather. But both of these kind of suck, making gathering and hunting even harder than they already are. I was going to add feedback to this that the Discord and Steam reviews already did, but before I could pile on, they announced some fixes to address these problems. In the full launch of the Dungeons update, we will see this rebalanced in favor of weapons. The developer's intent here is to make metal armor important for dedicated Slayer and combat content without hindering our ability to defend ourselves in the overworld. In addition to this, there are some pretty big changes as well to the overworld. Leather armor is receiving a significant boost to evasion, making it much easier to avoid or fight enemies in a pinch. Enemies will respawn more slowly, from 10 or 15 minutes to up to 4 hours, so you can effectively clear an area and return in a leather set without worrying. Enemies will also stick closer to their spawns, so they end up less clumped or wander back into a cleared area. Overall, I'm looking forward to these changes, but I'm concerned about some of the direction. The dungeons look fun, and being in physical locations in the world means you'll have more reasons and incentives to interact with your neighbors in your region, which the game sorely needs. However, they're almost entirely Slayer based, and I'm not sure if the dungeons are focused on the professions enough for the laid back and casual players the game advertises themselves to, or if it's interesting enough for the more dedicated and PvE centric players it serves. That being said, if the vision is to have large foundations such as entire dungeons, but for other skills like sailing and professions, then I'm on board. For example, many people are frustrated at the missing sailing experience, but we've heard them talk about adding an entire mechanic around sailing, which could be as big as this update is for Slayer. But what do you think? If you're excited, if the dungeons aren't what you expected, or if you prefer they target a different part of the game first. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.